Okay, so hi there, I'm Jonathan and this is my YouTube channel Moneroj. Let me just show you what I've been doing the last couple of days. So I've already started off by showing you the motherboard that I've used to make a new mining rig. Now this is in addition to my normal computer, and I've done this really cheaply and taken into account the fact that cryptonote currencies like Moneroj, well, Monero really, isn't it? Monero work differently than perhaps Bitcoin and other different types of cryptocurrency work. Because of that, you can use quite cheap graphics cards and get a fairly good result. So in the comments down below you can tell me what you're thinking, and I will put a list down below of where I got all these bits and bobs. So those are the graphics cards I'm using. At the moment I've only got 5 in the rig. I didn't have all the bits and bobs to finish it quite yet, but I did basically put in 5, and I'm going to put the other one in later on today. So here we are. I'm in, incidentally, if you want to give me a quick tip, you're welcome to send a little bit there. Quite happy to have that. What I'm doing is going to show you what my hash rate is from this rig with just the 5 cards. Okay, so they're all popping along quite nicely, and I'll perhaps put a little bit of information about how I got it right there. So I'm getting about 582 hashes a second from 5 cards. So these are nice cheap Sapphire Pulse RX 550s, which nobody likes apparently on the forums I've been reading. This is the overclock version, just £100 for me. I don't know what that would be in dollars, but it's almost certainly less than 100 whatever in another currency, so probably $80–90 where you are. This is the 4GB version. I just got that for redundancy and in case I want to do a bit of Ethereum. So let me show you what I've got. So I bought a nice big case. This is a Corsair case, and once again I'll give you the information about where to get this and whatnot. And an old monitor, keyboard. You just use what you've got over. I did have a few motherboards knocking around, but I thought I wanted something with a lot of PCIe spaces, so that's what I've got. I bought an ASRock. I got obviously all those pulses. A few of those are used in my present computer, and one thing I did do is I took off these plates, because you can't fit that many into the actual case. You have to fit them elsewhere, and I'll show you how I did that. Got a nice Corsair PSU. Now that's probably more than I needed, to be honest with you. And if you listen to the sound of this, it's hardly any noise at all, really, is it? It's incredibly quiet, nicely cooled, and because there's a big case, I mean this is a big case for what we're using here, it means that we're going to get a lot of air rushing around in there. So just to give you an idea of what we've got, so we've got the one graphics card where it should be. I've got one hasn't been placed in yet because I've got 2 to put in and I want to make sure I get those right. And then of course I've got the 3 graphics cards at the top. Now this is quite neat actually, because I had to work out how to get this into the case. There's plenty of space in this case, as you can see. It's wicked, but what I had to do was work out where I was going to fit these things. Now because this case has space here, and instead of having the PSU here, you've got it, let me show you where it is. It's actually awkward, isn't it? So let me quickly take this apart. I'm going to have to take these apart anyway to show you. Right, so popping that well away. So the PSU is right down there. I've got an SSD drive there. which is one I had knocking around, but it's a fairly nice one. It's 256 gigabytes. No hard drives in there. I'm going to pop some in later, but really this is a mining rig, so why think about worrying about that? This PSU is quite good because I can put just the cables in that I want to do, and I've got quite a bit of space left over. And obviously you've got all this space in here, which means that there's plenty of air flowing around in there. The funky bit about getting these cards in here was what you can do with the top here. So you can take the top of this case off to get access in there, which I think is quite neat. So let's just put that there. And all I did was I used the riser cards that I bought from Amazon. Again, I'll put them on. They're USB riser cards and are powered as well, so that's good because these number of cards need to be powered, but this is quite simple because there's no external power, it's just straight off the riser card, which means that I'm actually, well, as you can see, I've got a few left over. There's no real overuse of power, and you can kind of hear that, can't you? It's very, very quiet. All I did was I used some, whatever these are called, Ziplocs or whatever. I've got them in my pack. Let's get the right name for the things. Cable ties, there you are. So I got some cable ties and just pop them so that they're all holding it together. It's quite a Heath Robinson in the sense that it's just all stuck there, but it works quite nicely. And because the case has air coming over the top as well, there's not any spaces that are just like really stuck together, and no air's flowing around. And that means that you can get in there to fiddle around with wires. You can unplug and plug in, and then of course the riser cards go down into the Pro BTC ASRock motherboard and straight in there. So basically I've got one fixed in, as you would expect, that's going out to the monitor. I've got one there. I'm going to have another one in here probably, or I might put it in the back, perhaps where the PSU space is. There's no space here, and I want to keep this nice and free for a lot of air to come around. And I got my 3 here. There's no more I can fit in there, but still 6. There's only 6 spaces on the motherboard, so you wouldn't really want to do anything more than that. So you've seen my hash rate. Right. The only thing you probably want to know, or may be interested in knowing about. Oops. Right, I can't sit down because of the way I've placed all these things. So let's put them up there. All right, so behind me I couldn't sit down properly because I placed the lid from here underneath my bum. Right, so the only thing you really need to know that's different from maybe normal is that I've got the AMD Bitcoin Compute drivers, which came out on August the 11th, and I added those in. And when you use that driver, and you don't need to download anything else, just the driver, and then put it in. I mean, obviously, as you can probably see, I've put it onto Windows 10. I did try to do it in Ubuntu, and it was doing my nuttern. It's just easier, really, to do it on this in Windows 10. So I've got normal Radeon settings. Click on gaming down there. You get into global settings. You go across and you've got your Wattman, and that's my card. So let's make that the size of the screen so that we can see what we're doing quickly. So you've got your global Wattman settings. Let's get this in focus for you. Right, so if I go to the first graphics card, what you can see is that I have set the frequency to 14% increase. Okay, you can pull that across, or you can, well, yeah, you can pull that across, and it ups the top frequency. That brings it up to, and let's just see if we can see here, to 1,371 megahertz, which I think it starts off at 1,200, so that's quite a lot up. And then I have tended to just drop the voltage a little bit. This starts out at 1,050 millivolts, and I've just downed it to 1,025, which doesn't seem to make a great massive load of difference. And go in there, once I put in my figures, it gives me an option up here to apply, and then I just go across each of my graphics cards and make my changes as necessary. 40% up. Now, when the speed is 1374, not 1376 or whatever, 1374, as long as you keep it there, what you tend to find is that that's sufficient to keep the box from basically crashing. And the last thing you want to do is crash, because you've got to start it back up again, and it takes a lot of time. So as you can see, I'm mining at the moment with Stacks. This is from Fire and Ice's GitHub. I'll send a link down the bottom here as well for that. And I'm just setting that up with specific settings. They're quite nice to give you an indication of what I'm doing. So basically what I'm doing here is I'm setting, I've got five threads, as you can see. I'm setting the intensity to 1024 and the work size to 1600. And that gives me quite a high hash rate in comparison to what I might otherwise have got. And everything else is just as it comes out of the box, so that's easy enough. I think I'm using the port 555 on minexmr.com. There we are, you can see that better now. And that's doing quite nicely for me. Okay, so thanks guys, give me your comments. I'll try and do better videos as I get more used to doing this. I've been doing mining since 2011, 2012. But I've got to say, unfortunately, I mined some bitcoins and lent them to somebody, and that was the end of that. At the time I only lost 25 quid, but you can imagine what 5 bitcoins would be worth now. Wish I hadn't done that. Think again. See you soon, and thanks for watching.